Hey, welcome to Film Fanatics. My name is Dan.
My name is Justin.
And I'm Joe.
This week we've got the latest film in the Divergent series, Allegiant, the latest in a string of recent Christian-themed films, Miracles from Heaven, plus Big Bang Theory's Melissa Roach in The Bronze, and Oscar-nominated foreign film Embrace of the Serpent. First up, though, we are going to talk about Allegiant. Joe?
Basically, this is the first part of the final chapter of the final book of this trilogy. And basically, Triss and company go beyond the wall now as a war brews at home, and they find out that, as we already kind of knew, the whole thing was part of an experiment, and as a Divergent, she's the key to something. I don't know how much detail I want to go into, but basically what you'd expect, kind of determining the best way to create the best people, and Jeff Daniels plays the bad guy behind it, and Triss doesn't understand that. Ultimately, they just have to try to get back home and stop the war and defeat the bad guys again. Well, it's quite obvious, first of all, that this movie should be done. I mean, it shouldn't be two parts, like a lot of the other previous ones.
Gosh, no.
It's just that it's obviously in all something leading to a final climax, which will ultimately be, I guess, the second movie. And it just feels like a lot of padding, a lot of pacing issues. But that's not even the worst thing. The worst thing is, it does get kind of entertaining because there is stuff happening.
Is there?
There's like action. There's action scenes happening. There's shooting happening, but there's just so much stupidity happening. So many plot holes. Like, most of the time it's kind of relatively veiled on, like, Dan, I don't hate the Divergent series that much. I usually get this stuff a pass. Mm-hmm. You can't hide it. There are so many issues. So many. And you would think it's so obvious that when they go and meet Jeff Daniels, he's the bad guy, he's got an agenda, and Triss goes along with it. At this point, there's no reason she should not be assuming the authority figure. Her decisions in this movie just make no sense. But, on top of that, the reactions to everybody makes no sense. Miles Teller's character.
Why do they keep him around?
Why is he there? It's so obvious. It's dumb. It's just dumb. And that's the biggest problem, is that there was enough interesting aspects of the Divergent series up to this point that, I thought it was relatively contained within itself. Now it's obvious the story should have been completed. They're going off completely off the rails. And I can understand why this book wasn't as popular, because it's just a very weak story with so many little plot holes and also major ones. It just feels like it should be over by now. But I'm curious to see what you guys thought of it. Dan, I'm looking at you.
Well, I'm a fan.
I know you're a fan.
I thought the first one was pretty solid. I thought the second one was pretty close to that. Uh-huh. I can't get with this movie at all.
It's just so bad.
It's awful. It's like Maze Runner awful.
It's really terrible.
Okay, here's my biggest problems with it.
Okay.
Let's just shoot down the list. The first 2/3 barely makes any sense. I really didn't understand what was even happening most of the time.
Yeah, it's hard.
Really, until she goes to the meeting with Jeff Daniels, and then things start actually like falling into place. But they should at least have been coherent before that.
Yes.
Like, I understand they were trying to make that a big reveal, which you're right, Joe, it's a very obvious reveal. The acting is another huge issue. Miles Teller, first of all, has made it clear he doesn't even want to be in this series. So that's fine. He signed a contract to do all these movies. But, like, I said this was my biggest plot hole in the second one. Why is he still part of it? Lose him. But he's a jerk.
The thing is, if his character was kind of developed, which it seems like he is, sort of, he's a jerk, but he's a good guy. And then whatever. My point is, we kind of accept it. He's still a good person. His character develops. This one, it's like, all right, I'm done. I
didn't even understand why he was in the second one. That was my biggest problem with that one. And now, really, really, why is he there?
Dan, really, when they go out there,
and
you're
he's just sleepwalking.
There's no reason.
The role.
There's no reason for his character to be there, just to get
I know.
There's no reason.
No, completely.
Also, Ansel Elgort is such a bad actor. I thought he was okay in Fault in the Stars, but there's shots of this. Okay, there's a big portion of this movie that's like virtual reality kind of thing.
I've got a question about that.
Okay. Well,
for Justin to speak eventually.
Well, I know. He doesn't like this series anyway, so he'll go last. But obviously most of this was like CGI stuff.
Yeah.
So they're in this pod or whatever. And the faces that he makes.
Oh my God.
When the director is, I'm sure, telling him, like, okay, now, this is shooting at you. And he, like, makes these awful, pained, strained faces that are terrible. This is sort of I don't know how much of a nitpick this is, but Shailene Woodley looks like she is 35 in this movie because of the way they dress her.
Yeah.
They dress her in these outfits that Kate Winslet would have worn in the first movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's supposed to take place like a week or 2 weeks or whatever after the first movie.
I'm guessing that's
She's still 18.
I'm guessing that's some sort of symbolism. She's becoming Janine.
Right, but she come on.
Yeah, we can do a little better than
I mean,
Well, speaking of the whole sequence with the cameras, surveillance is a big issue, obviously,
Yes.
with the drones, which admittedly was cool. But I know that this place was designed for this massive experiment.
Mm-hmm.
But you take a look at this tiny city, which is apparently funding everything out in the middle of nowhere, which constructed an even better city for the people that are supposedly in squalor. I can believe they have a really good surveillance. But I can't believe they have cameras at every
Literally
single angle.
every second, everywhere.
Literally
Yeah,
everywhere.
no.
That would take millions of years. Come on.
Yeah.
the visual to that was cool, though.
It was
that
cool.
was one of the few cool things
Yeah.
about this movie.
It was cool, but it makes no sense.
I'm not saying
Absolutely
it makes
not.
sense. They also lose somebody early on in this movie that's
Oh,
like part
my-
of the team.
Thank you.
And because
Yo.
there's literally zero attachment to this character, and I like this actor, but there's just...
right.
I didn't care.
Dan.
And she died,
Dan.
and said individual dies in the most cliche way humanly possible.
Yes, they do.
First of all, from like just a physics point of view, that was very unlikely to have happened anyway. But no,
Well, that too.
I was mad because this character, this is the most this character has done in the entire franchise
Yeah.
at this point. And then, of course, they die. And, of course, I'm sad. You know,
Yeah, I knew you would be.
I'm very sad. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, that's just a waste.
But how smart were they to say, I don't want any part of this series anymore. Kill me.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Justin, let's have it. You're the biggest opponent of this series in general.
Maybe
so.
he'll go light. That'd be crazy. Go light.
Well, but see, maybe he will because he doesn't expect anything.
Maybe not.
No, this is. I mean, it's the beginning of the end for a franchise that I'm just going to say it has more than outstayed its welcome. I'm very, very glad that this strayed away from the 2.5, 2 hours 20-minute runtime of the last two, because if it had been any longer, I think I would have gone crazy in the theater.
No, but it could have been 2.5 if they had just combined the book into one movie.
And the series.
No.
You know.
If they had done that, I feel like at least the pace would have been tolerable.
Yeah.
But this is just slower than dirt. Yes, there's action, but there's like 9 different plots going on. I have no idea what is going on in any of them. There's like this whole war going on. You get little bits. The title is horrendous. Joe and I had a brief conversation about that.
Yeah, it's the
like 2 days ago.
title of the movie, and yet it's only like a small plot point.
It's monumental.
Yeah, that's the
honestly.
title of the book, though. What are you going to do?
It's well, then it's a kind of a poorly choice title.
Yeah, I mean, this is just another case of the two-parter curse, where we have moments where there is literally nothing happening, and it's just chewing scenery, and I'm wondering, why are we turning this into basically a 2-hour cash grab? I mean, there's not much more to say
It's
about
not grabbing much cash.
Uh-oh.
Well, it still made $29 million, but no. It's,
Yeah, and what do you think it was budgeted at, Justin? They slashed the budget for the fourth and final one after the returns of the weekend.
No kidding.
Yeah.
But when we reviewed the first one, I kind of nailed Shailene Woodley's performance as Triss as this completely naive and kind of dumb character. I stand by that now more than ever, particularly with decisions, particularly with development. Her character is just a nightmare. The whole relationship thing has gone from like bad tacked on romance to just why.
Well, Ford's the only character that really is worth anything, to be completely honest.
To be completely honest, but
He makes sense with what he has.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
yeah, no, I didn't say that he didn't make sense. I just said their romance
it's a bit iffy.
is tacky, to put it politely.
Yeah.
But the biggest offender for me is the visuals. With the exception of the pods, the CGI in this movie is horrendous.
It's pretty obvious.
I mean, painfully bad green screen effects.
It is, but we have reviewed in the last month Gods of Egypt and that other one that was terrible, which I can't even remember right now.
I mean,
compared to that, for me, not so much.
There were still moments in Gods of Egypt that I could put up with CGI wise. This was like eyesore bad. Thank you, director.
It was a great shot, too, of like the one henchman going after them, and they're just kind of standing there, and he just kind of looks at them like, "Durr." By the way, they overused the slow motion a lot in this movie.
Oh my gosh. Just
Like 3 or 4 times.
it's not quite a Scarlet Letter, but it's definitely what I would consider the weakest entry in the series.
Oh, yeah, by like a million miles, Justin.
Yeah.
All right, Joe.
Well, it's not a good movie. I leave it with a D.
All right. It's a D for me as well, Justin.
D.
All right. Well, up next we have Miracles from Heaven. This is a faith-based film created from a memoir of the same name by a Texan mother named Christy Beam. Beam is played in the film by Jennifer Garner, and her 10-year-old girl Anna, played by Kylie Rogers, is suffering from a disorder that makes her unable to eat, and none of the doctors she sees can figure out why. Soon she is using feeding tubes for nutrition, and even though her and her mom travel to Boston to see one of the country's best pediatricians, it still looks grim. Queen Latifah has a supporting role. Now, it's fairly obvious what happens at the end of this film. It wouldn't exist without any other outcome, honestly.
Or title.
Or title. So the element of surprise sort of goes out the window. So how does it do with everything else? I think Garner gives a really great performance, save her wildly inconsistent accent. Definitely falling prey to the Helen Hunt. Great performance, horrid accent.
Yeah.
But, you guys will probably remember this. One of my few issues with Dallas Buyers Club was that I didn't think Garner could quite keep up with McConaughey and Leto. These are actors here at the top of their games. In Miracles, Garner only has to rise above a fairly standard script and wring genuine emotions from her character. And I think she really does that. She shines in this movie, I think probably because the rest of the ensemble is not on her level. But she did bring some true emotions, I think, from the performance, and she is the reason this movie works. It's definitely corny in spots. The montage in the middle of the hospital is probably the worst part. But it's kind of what you would expect.
Words can't express, but
the humor doesn't really work. They try to do like a pizza gag a couple of times. But honestly, I think it does work on the whole better than many Christian films because of her performance. And it's sort of like Heaven is for real in the respect that, yes, the religion is a part of it, and there are a few scenes at church, and let's, pray to the Lord that she gets better. But I don't think this one quite beats you over the head with it as certain others. What did you guys think? We typically go to Justin first on the Christian movies because maybe one day he'll give a positive grade to one.
Hopefully.
So how did this one do for you, Justin?
Another year, another inevitable Christian fluff piece. I mean, could talk at length about the hard scripts, the really, really tacked on humor, montage hell. But no, I mean, Garner's definitely got the charisma. I wish he had a better script. It's definitely Sorbo-esque if we want to make a God's Not Dead comparison.
Where you always do.
Where it's actually half decent performance in god-awful movie, but it works for what it is. Obviously, the target audience isn't going to care. Did I personally find it kind of unbelievably sappy? Yes, but that's just the nature of the beast with these kind of things. I also could have done without the really, really, really hokey epilogue, but...
Lots of puns here. He said it was sappy and nature of the beast when part of the story is she falls down a tree.
Good stuff. Good stuff. No, honestly, there's not too much I can say that you guys haven't covered. I mean, it's... With a lot of these Christian fun movies, there's a certain quality you generally expect, like it is kind of cheesy. But I think the movie holds together pretty well for what you'd expect. And you guys are right, though. Garner's the main reason that it's elevated. And I think that's really something they need to go for is, they sometimes manage to find good people to cast in these movies. Just kind of wish that they took a little more time to develop the scripts more and explore these ideas.
Yeah.
One thing I liked about Heaven is for Real was that it actually did explore some interesting ideas about both sides of faith and have the characters go through a bit of an arc. This one does too, though I don't think quite.
A little bit, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say very, very minimal.
But not quite to the same level. It's still there.
Oh, yeah.
Which I like that. I think that's fair when they do that. But really, yeah, it's kind of hokey, but for the most part, I thought it was good. And certainly the core audience will be fine with it. It's better than a lot of Christian movies,
well,
for sure.
And one thing I liked about it, to speak to that point, Joe, is, there is a scene at the church where sort of the congregation is, giving Garner a lot of crap.
Yeah.
And from my own experience at as a church-going person in the past, I do find there to be, a certain amount of judgment with certain things in a church that we don't see a lot in these types of movies.
Yeah.
Usually the naysayers are the non-church goers, the sorbos. Okay? But, here we got it in the congregation, and it did make Garner sort of not question her faith, but question, is the church the way to, access my faith?
There you go.
And I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Certainly an element, certainly to be explored. Just, once again, kind of wish a little deeper, a little more.
Yeah.
Would have been more interesting, but then again, maybe that goes
It's
against
PG,
the message of the movie. I don't know.
You don't expect so much, I guess.
Yeah, but...
The girl was okay.
Yeah, she was fine.
She didn't bother me. I mean, she wasn't,
served her purpose.
Yeah, she wasn't amazing here, but, I mean, she did spend half the movie, in a hospital bed
Exactly.
or in a tree.
Yeah. Go climb a tree, and she did. And
she definitely did.
well, kids, go climb trees, and your problems will be solved. Ooh.
This is a bad message.
Wow. All right, Joe, what did you think?
I thought it was okay. I leave it with a B-.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually right there with you. B- for me.
Well, I mean, if we were going from Garner, this would probably be like a B- as well, but there's still the bad script, horrible cinematography, and unbelievably sappy editing. D+.
Oh.
Okay. Moving on. Justin, tell us about the bronze.
Whenever.
Best transition ever.
Well, there's no point.
No,
I mean, you're never going to get a positive grade, so it's fine.
Melissa Roch plays Hope, an ex-Olympic gymnast who took the bronze in her youth and is now widely regarded, well, to her anyway, as a sort of town hero in her sleepy little hometown of Ohio. However, when her former trainer commits suicide, leaving Hope an inheritance on the condition that she train a bubbly up-and-comer named Maggie, played by Haley Lou Richardson, to victory. Sebastian Stan, also known as the Winter Soldier, also stars.
Oh.
Listeners, the woman child strikes again, but in this case I think there's a little bit more development than in the last couple instances, such as the horrid incarnation that was Melissa McCarthy and Tammy. Admittedly, Roush is not exactly likable, and she's not exactly likable, and the start of this movie is a little bit rough in that regard, but one of the things I thought that helped me with this movie was not necessarily taking it as as perceiving it as a likable person, but more or less in regards of sort of an outlook on how do we perceive celebrities as heroes, and how do they respond to that sort of reception. Is it necessarily the most redeemable character? No. Is it always funny? Absolutely not. But can I believe it to varying degrees? Yes. Unfortunately, it doesn't always make for great entertainment, and multiple weird camera angles to sort of show a variety of different shots for really no particular reason. Joe, I know you didn't hit this one, but Dan, where'd you stand on this one?
Well, I mean, the first thing you said was that she's a legend in this town in her own, mind or whatever, however you phrased it. But I think that would make her a worse character. The problem is with her character that the whole town feeds into it. She's got her own private parking space at the diner.
Right.
She gets free Sbarro at the mall. It's not a delusion on her part, and I do think that helps give her character a little more credibility than I think your synopsis would warrant.
Well, I mean, I feel like she does have status, but it's sort of a fading status.
It is, but at the same time, it's definitely still there, and I think. Now, she co-wrote the script with her husband, and I think she smartly gave this character a little bit of likability along the way. Like, in the beginning, somebody, I forget whether it was a cigarette butt or whatever, but they flick something in the street, and, and she, groans and picks it up.
Yeah.
She helps the guy in the wheelchair at the mall. So it's like we see these little glimmers of a decent person in there somewhere.
Right.
But then she's stealing mail out of her dad's truck.
Yep.
And she's a real bee to her dad in general, played by Gary Cole from Office Space and the Brady Bunch films. So, I think this movie is okay. I don't think that we do have to have a likable protagonist. And the movie that sort of made me okay with that concept was Young Adult.
It's true.
And this character, I think, has a lot of the same sort of issues as Charlize Theron in that movie, sort of in a different way.
That's true.
But, but there's an arc that doesn't quite complete.
No.
But I don't know. I mean, I think the movie had some laughs.
That's true.
I think some of the things they were mining for laughs didn't work that great.
Yeah, I feel like it was best when it was sort of subtle. Mm-hmm. Like the one where they were trying way too hard for laughs, which comes at like the 2/3 mark and is just so beyond over the top.
The sex scene,
for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I mean, it was sort of more clever in concept than in execution, but
Agreed.
The dosing of the little girl's smoothie with enough weed to kill Willie Nelson. I mean, that was obviously a very broad joke that I don't know if it, pardon the pun, landed. But I thought it was okay. I'm gonna leave the bronze with a C-.
And likewise.
All right. Well, Joe, let's go back to you for the Oscar-nominated foreign film Embrace of the Serpent.
Or as I like to call it, Hugging the Snake.
Not Cackling Medicine Man?
That would be Sean Connery.
Not bad.
Now, The Embrace of the Serpent is a film that really tells two tales. One, I think, is closer to World War II, and it follows this native of Colombia called Karamakate. He's an Amazonian shaman and is the last survivor of his tribe. And in each of these tales, he travels with two scientists. The first one is this German, the second one an American, and they're looking for the rare Yacruna. It's a sacred plant with healing properties. Now, the film was apparently loosely inspired by the diaries written by the two scientists during their field work in the Amazon. Very loosely, from what I understand. And here we have another movie that I think explores some of the concepts of like Conrad's novel Heart of Darkness. We saw some of that with certain films like Apocalypse Now. Very similar ideas explored there. You get to see the
good parallel
ideas of colonialism, the relation of the white man to the native, and both the pros and cons of that. And each of these characters, I think, are there to express some of the more positive ideas, but obviously there's still some issues that come up in terms of the disconnect. Now, the best strength of this movie, though, is that it has amazing visuals. I mean, I think that the cinematography is fantastic. They really do a good job of using the jungle to tell the story.
I'm actually shocked it didn't get a nomination for cinematography.
No, absolutely. Like, if we're talking in terms of pure execution and beauty, I think that's really the strength of it here. And I think that the acting was pretty good. There are some good characters. There is a good story here. But I do feel like it's something we've seen before. I feel like it's a tale we've explored, just executed in a very, very excellent style, obviously. But I'm kind of curious to you guys what to think about it, because I think it's an excellent film, but maybe not quite as good as the accolades would suggest.
Well, I mean, I feel like every year there's sort of that one movie that I'm sort of wondering that was nominated. I'm just sort of thinking, why is this here? I think this is the first year where I've managed to hit where I've tried to hit as many, if not all, of the foreigns, and I feel okay that they earn their spot.
Okay.
You're definitely right. Cinematography is by far the star of the show with this one, and it comes to life in the most glorious of ways. I mean,
I'd agree.
Black and white cinematography at its finest. Truly incredible stuff. The dual narrative, I kind of had a love-hate relationship with. When I was interested in some spots, they jumped to the second bit.
Which story did you prefer?
To be honest, I preferred the first, the one with
I did as well.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that the second one was bad. It was just it took so long to get back to that one that I think it was literally told in like 30 minutes.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think maybe we all preferred the first one because they spent so much time with it.
Basically, yeah. It's kind of unfairly distributed.
Yeah. And because of that, I feel like it got kind of episodic, and I think by the end of it, it kind of wrapped up like 6 times.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with how it wrapped up, but there were so many different instances where I was like, you can cut it here and that'd be perfect. And it just keeps going. And I just am thinking, like, you can't be in love with your movie. You gotta be able to drop the mark somewhere. But
yeah, it's definitely a little bit long in the tooth, but I think really the structure of it was my main issue. I don't even know if it was necessarily that we spent more time with one story than the other, but just the way they tried to sort of dovetail them didn't really work.
No.
I mean, there were some aspects that were similar, certainly at the one, point they both go to the same place at different periods. But that was my big issue with it. But I do think this is a movie that stays with you. I mean, other than the great cinematography and visuals, just the story itself and the fact that, at the end it does sort of say, yeah, not only is this from these two guys' diaries, essentially, but these are the only two known works that sort of give us a glimpse into this world that are left.
Mm-hmm.
So we do really see it from their perspective, which I think is cool. I thought it really, like you said, Joe, could have been excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably more in the pretty great category.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
You know, it's not like amazing, but yeah, Justin, that one year that the Great Beauty won, the best the best far, and that was rough. I don't think I saw all of them that year like I did last year, but the Great Beauty was just not, to me, worthy of that nomination. You know, as many foreign movies as we see in a year.
I mean, visually, it was worthy, but
that's all it had going for it, though.
Yeah, it was, the storyline was kind of frenetic.
Yeah,
lately.
But I agree. I mean, I've seen, I think, 3 of the 5 now, and yeah, I think they're all pretty decent. How did you guys feel about the whole metaphor thing with the snake? Because I thought it was actually not overbearing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought
agree.
they used it pretty sparingly.
Yeah, I mean, it was there, but it wasn't artist holier than thou there.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, not that particular one. There definitely is a feel of some heavy metaphor throughout the whole movie, you know, but that's what they're going for.
I was going to say, it fits well in context with what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a catching title, too, and appropriate.
It is.
Not always the case. Well,
So, what do you think?
I think it falls short of being a masterpiece, so I leave it with an A-.
Okay, I'm actually right with you, A-.
B+.
All right. Well, that will do it for the show this week. Next week, actually, a bit of a shorter show, just a couple movies coming out, because, of course, everybody wanted to steer clear of releasing their movies during Batman v Superman.
Leaving.
And
Weekend's yours, DC.
That also leads us into a mini-sode that we have up now for the DC month of old classics, so you can enjoy that as you get to the theater for Batman v Superman. Joe, of course, there's going to be a standalone review on your channel of that film.
It has to be.
All right, well, that will do it for us. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already, and you can join us on Twitter as well, @FilmFan.